Warning, you are about to listen to something fictional, different, and possibly disturbing. If you are afraid of robots, you should leave now. It is a matter of safety. For those who remain, those bold enough to face the truth of tomorrow, Insolent Cool Incorporated presents ICQN News.
Welcome to ICQN News, where we bring you the top news relevant to most people in most timelines. Here at ICQN News, we don't just publish information for the sake of publishing information. We tackle hard stories that help you make the difference in your own lives and make this a better galaxy for everyone. One of our viewers, a waitress at a small colony diner orbiting the moon, reached out to us with concerns that their employer may secretly be hiding something sinister, something fishy. She couldn't explain it, but she could feel it. She just knew. We sent one of our reporters, who we'll call Vox, undercover to the restaurant to see what was really going on. When Vox first got there, he didn't notice anything unusual. The customers seemed normal. There was nothing great about the food, but nothing fiendish either. Finally, our contact, the waitress, pointed out that her boss was going into the bathroom. Our brave reporter, Vox, wasted no time and headed there as well. He discovered it was single occupancy. This supposed man had gone to a place where no one could observe his behaviors, or true form. Vox also took note that the door had been locked, which could be an indication that the being inside was hiding something, and that potential something could potentially be a dark and unimaginable horror. Vox wasted no time in pulling out his Squid Detector 3000. He pointed its satellite dish at the door, unchecked the radiation safety, and let the machine do its magic. Our reporter hid the device just before the manager came out with a face betraying a deep sense of entitlement to space, privacy, and possibly the minds of others. After pretending to wash his hands, Vox returned to his table and faked eating for several minutes, until he could have an inconspicuous one-on-one conversation with the waitress, in which he gave her the good news. Her boss was not a squid, nor was he an anthrolobster. She was very happy to learn this and went back about her work, fulfilling her vocation as a waitress, with full knowledge that her employer was not secretly a sea monster.
Well, your employer might not be an anthrolobster, but your employees can definitely be the undead. Massive protests are erupting both in favor of and against undead proliferation. While it is clear that a vocal subset of the global population is very passionate about this issue in either direction, it is unclear, at least as far as the protests are concerned, what percentage of the population cares about this issue and what side they are on. This confusion arises from the fact that each side employs the undead in their activism. As more moneyed interests become involved on both sides, there is an escalation in the types of undead serving as labor for the protests. The organizations and interests with more money can channel more energy into their summon spells and bring forth a more spirited undead person, with the inclination to run, shriek, and smash things as opposed to shuffling and moaning. Mary Frankie, leader of the undead labor movement, had this to say.
It's time for us to really question the role of consciousness as it relates to the undead. Summoning is summoning. If a big corporation can summon a dragon that is obviously conscious and considered to be such, then why can't we at least ask that question? When we're clearly seeing an evolution in the capabilities of
Frankie's message was abruptly cut off, and she has not made any public statements since. Critics of the undead labor movement are calling Frankie a victim of her own censorship and intolerance. Residents and businesses in the areas where these demonstrations are taking place are increasingly calling for new laws and regulations on what kinds of creatures can be summoned, where, and to what ends. The Milky Way Summoners Guild, an organization that has existed for years as a 3-member book club, has swelled its membership exponentially over the last few months and is among the strongest lobbying groups in Earth's orbit, with sister organizations gaining popularity in the Martian nations. The Guild opposes any and all regulations regarding summoning on the grounds that the summoner has a right to communicate with both the dead and the imaginary, and that summoning is simply the intersection of enjoying this with the right of pet ownership. The Guild does support laws that protect responsible summoners as well as laws that simply clarify the application of existing laws to summoning. Coming up after the break, we have an update on the crisis in New Transformer City.
Do you often feel anxious in public spaces? Is it sometimes difficult to trust others? Do you get the vague feeling that another individual means you harm, but you're unable to prove it? The fact is that any individual you meet outside or even inside of your home could potentially be the pawn of a cold-blooded, mind-stealing gigasquid with no respect for the rights and dignity of others, whose only concern is satiating their hedonic need for chaos and human misery. You see, humans tend to live too far away from the depths of the ocean, where the gigasquids live in their ornate palaces at the centers of their underwater cities, using telepathy to issue commands to their subjects. This allowed them, or rather forced them, to coexist with Earthian humans. Unfortunately, nautocratic mad scientists, who are essentially nihilists, decided to create and deploy anthro-lobster drones. These half-lobster, half-machine creatures walk among us, posing as humans as they gather information and carry out tasks on behalf of the squids. Recently, anthro-lobsters have been spotted in our spaceships, space stations, and space colonies. What makes this matter worse is that no one is taking this issue seriously. Not the law, not academia, and not even food safety or credit reporting agencies. Hey, we get it. It's not your fault. Until now, you've been helpless to do anything about this situation. I am happy to inform you that things have changed. The Lobster Detector 3000 is a handheld device that blasts a suspected squid or squid agent with radiation until they show their true form. Just as ancient humans sprinting across the plains learned to make hydroelectric saliva tests to ostracize witches from their communities, you can now take action to confirm your suspicions about potential squids or squid agents. But it's still an uphill battle. There's no legal disclaimer for this ad, because unfortunately this product is not yet legal. We need your help. Have a chatbot draft a letter to your local lobbyist in favor of purchasing legislation to legalize social radiation devices, such as our Squid Detector 3000. Open the Mind link in this broadcast to send us a copy of your letter, and upon legalization, you will receive a 25% off coupon for the purchase of a Squid Detector 3000. The coupon does not apply towards purchase of the optional carrying case. Thank you for your time and hopefully your business.
New Transformer City is currently under siege by man-eating macro snails. A mental media blackout has been put into effect, making it very difficult for information to get out of the city. It's not clear if these are the same snails that escaped from the laboratory, or if the macro snails reproduce at an accelerated rate. We know next to nothing about the macro snails as the laboratory's research has been completely lost, a topic which we will cover in our next story. The military has created a perimeter around the city and is not letting anyone or anything in or out as a precautionary measure to protect the rest of the galaxy. Due to the unknown nature of the potential biohazards that may be caused by the macro snails, the military is waiting for scientists to independently reproduce the experiments which created the giant hypercarnivorous snails in the first place. This process could take weeks or even months. The people of New Transformer City are in a devastating predicament, as food is expected to run out within days. Despite the media blackout, some images and videos are leaking via subpsychic torrents and analog media. ICQN News has seen some of this footage, but we will not show it or get into details here as it is too gruesome for this program. Friends and family of NTC residents, as well as relief workers, have ships in orbit for when Earth military leaders allow communication, trade, and travel to resume. According to military officials, communication, including mental media, is being blocked until they can verify there is no outside entity psychically communicating with the snails and possibly directing their attacks. In our next story, the hyper-capitalists who just weeks ago were the cornerstone of New Transformer City's thriving slime-as-a-currency movement have started a new movement to save the metropolis they in many ways built.
Last week, we reported that the Earth government ordered all slime currencies globalized in an effort to get the slime-powered and apparently slime-locked New Transformer City laboratory behind the macro snail escape and subsequent invasion up and running to assist in putting an end to the crisis. The latest news is that the laboratory has completely melted down, likely due to improper usage of the slime generators and slime tools in the lab. According to investigators, the only people who really knew how to use these tools were the scientists, and they were the first to be eaten by the macro snails. Thankfully, there were only minor injuries sustained by investigators and relief workers in the lab meltdown. Along with the lab, most of the slime that could have been used as currency, energy, food, and much more was also destroyed, and it may take decades to get back up to the same level of slime production assuming slime liberalization. Critics blame what they consider to be the Earth government's haphazard seizure of slime, as well as its dismissiveness of the rights of slime owners, who, according to them, should have been allies in dealing with this issue, and negligence as it related to planning for the spontaneous appearance of enormous populations of anti-human fauna. Some are going so far as to suggest that a constitutional decentralized autonomous organization is useless in times of war or novel crises. A few kilometers away within the actual borders of NTC, the slime as a currency entrepreneurs have repurposed their slime tools to 3D print salt-based weapons and traps to defend against the macro snails. It appears that once again, the fate of New Transformer City rests on their shoulders. Thank you for listening to ICQN News. Join us next week for more top news from the most lucrative universes. Goodbye for now.
That concludes this episode of ICQN News, written and produced by Michael David Marshall. Subscribe to the Insolent Cool Substack for the latest news on our books, games, podcasts, and more. Thank you for listening to Insolent Cool Radio. If you enjoyed this program, please leave a review. Until next time.